This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
You are listening to Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm George Gordon. We're talking about the dramatic effects of hearing loss and solutions that you can find with NextGen Hearing. And joining me in studio is NextGen's Dr. Ted Venema. Curiosity, male or female, who is more apt to lose their hearing more quickly?
Same.
Really?
Yep. Although males tend to have poorer, high-pitched, like extreme treble hearing because they've been more exposed to noise. Okay, but otherwise the incidence of hearing loss between males and females is equal. People hit 65, you get high pitch hearing loss.
Got it. What about the left ear versus the right ear?
Same
thing.
Same thing. When people have presbycusis, and I'm glad you're asking. That's a good question. Presbycusis, one ear doesn't get old before the other ear. So
Right.
the hearing in both ears, when it falls the same way, that's one of the dead giveaways. It's presbycusis. A child will be different. He'll have an ear infection in one ear or in the other ear, sometimes in both. But when you have a difference in hearing between ears, maybe a hunter might have that because he was more exposed to noise on one side, or a dentist, or a truck driver, like most of the noise is by the window of his left ear. So, but other than that, presbycusis, the most common cause of hearing loss in the world, aging, is the same for both ears.
All right. That mystery has now been solved. Let's move on to what some people consider the most frightening thing in the world, which is have to go to be tested for anything. So now you're going to be taken to a clinic if you haven't voluntarily gone yourself, and you have to go through this process. Demystify. Explain how it works when you go into NextGen.
We take a case history. We meet you. We take a case history of what your concerns are. We know the questions. Audiologists and hearing instrument specialists are well trained to ask the questions that need to be asked in order to rule out referral to a doctor. Okay? You have to rule out whether the person should be seen by a physician or not. And we ask you what your problems are and what your communication difficulties are, and then we do the hearing test. And that's where the proof of the pudding comes out. We test the right ear and the left ear separately under headphones, and you are in a sound-treated room so you can hear your best. And the person examining you is on the other side of a glass window, and the clinician is sitting in front of what's called an audiometer, which produces tones across the different frequencies. And you are asked to raise a hand or push a button whenever you hear a tone. We might test the right ear first or the left ear first, doesn't matter. But we test at a pitch, we find out what decibel level is required for you to just barely hear. And then we move to the next pitch, and we do the same thing. Move to the next pitch, do the same thing. So we've got an idea of how that right ear is hearing from bass to treble. And usually the hearing in the bass is better than the hearing in the treble. It takes fewer decibels to just barely hear a low-pitched tone than the high-pitched tone. The same test is repeated in the left ear. Then we use words in speech, and we test your comfortable loudness level in speech. We test your uncomfortable loudness in speech. We test the softest it takes for you to just barely hear speech. We test the clarity of your hearing for speech. In other words, we won't let you see my face, but I'll be saying, say the word tree. I'll have my face covered. Say the word cow. Say the word, it's not like see the big black cat. Okay, we're robbing you of the context. We're testing how clear can you hear, my dear. Okay? Then the test is done, and we explain the results. This is the most important piece, with explanation.
Like in real people talk?
Yeah, it's called communication. And that's where you are being armed with the information specifically about your hearing loss, because your hearing loss is going to require different amplification than mine. And that's why hearing aids take a prescription. Just like glasses. I can't wear yours, you can't wear mine. It's the same with hearing aids. People think that hearing aids just make sounds louder, and that's just not true. They are programmed and tailored to match your particular audiogram findings. So your thresholds, your hearing levels for both ears are entered into the computer, and the computer programs the hearing aid according to your particular peculiar needs. that to your hearing levels.
That
So,
would be that. So it really is. It's like you can't wear another person's glasses.
exactly.
You can't wear another person's.
Correct.
And these are to make your
Yeah.
hearing or lack of hearing
Correct. They
better.
they take a prescription.
So-
And go ahead.
The letters of speech across the audiogram. This is
Yeah.
another area.
Well, as a short little lesson in phonetics or whatever, vowels, A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y, all the sounds you make with your throat,
Right.
those are louder and lower.
Right.
But think of it, you've got 5 vowels in English, and you have thousands of words, and every word has a vowel. So vowels are cheap. Vowels don't tell you what the word was. Again, you have 5 vowels, you have thousands of words, and every single one of those thousands of words has to share 5 vowels. So, again, if someone says thin, pin, kin, sin, tin, that tells you what the word was. Cat, hat, sat, fat, bat. It's the consonants that tell you what the word was. And consonants are high-pitched. Consonants tend to be treble. And when someone has trouble with treble, they've got trouble hearing what word was said. Not that speech was spoken, but what did they say? So they're always trying to catch up. They're always trying to figure out what the context was, so they know whether the person was talking about dishes or fishes.
And not everybody speaks with perfect diction.
No, they don't. So they have real difficulty discriminating, especially words that rhyme, words that sound alike. And then, you stand in danger of completely missing the message. I ordered 200 hamburgers to go for 200 people, or did you order hamburgers to go for 2 hungry people?
Wow.
Think about it.
Great example.
It's just like phenomenal what you will miss when you're when you're not getting all the sound. And hearing aids have another thing. They have to, when you lose hearing, it's like your floor of hearing sensitivity goes up. In other words, you require more decibels to just barely hear, but your ceiling of loudness tolerance didn't go up.
Okay.
So people with hearing loss, they don't want people yelling at them. They hanker for more diction. They hanker for clarity. So hearing aids are very sophisticated. They're not just like amplifiers that make sounds louder. They have to amplify soft sounds by a lot and loud sounds by little or nothing at all. It's something called dynamic range. You think about how many decibels is required for you to just barely hear, and call that your floor. Let's say if normal hearing requires 10 decibels to just barely hear, and the person with hearing loss requires 50 decibels to just barely hear that sound. Well, the person with normal hearing may be able to tolerate up to about 100 decibels before it hurts. Same with the person with the hearing loss. 100 will also hurt. So his ceiling didn't change. His ceiling of loudness tolerance is the same as someone with normal hearing. It's just that his floor of hearing sensitivity went up. So he's got a narrower range to work with. So if a really soft sound comes into the hearing aid has to automatically amplify that soft sound by a lot. But as the sound gets louder coming into the hearing aid has to automatically back off, because the person with hearing loss can't stand loud sounds any differently than the person with normal hearing. That's the trick behind hearing aids. They've got to amplify soft sounds by a lot and loud sounds by little or nothing at all. In other words, they're a flexible amplifier. They're changing the amount by which they're amplifying all the time.
So, and you can only do that digitally.
You can only do that digitally, and that takes a lot of sophistication. They're not just amplifiers stuck in your ear. These are quite sophisticated instruments. As we said at the beginning of this show, hearing loss is so different from vision loss. And that's why the fix for hearing loss is so different than the fix for vision loss, because the nature of damage is so different.
Well, that... It's interesting you mentioned the dynamic range.
Yeah.
Radio stations, for example, learned how to soften and amplify, but keep the sound consistent through digitalization.
That's right.
And
they call that compression. Hearing aids have to provide a lot of amplification for really soft sounds, but then they have to start compressing the amplification for as the sound gets louder. And so there's this rapid change in the amount. Think of an amplifier that's constantly changing the amount by which it amplifies without you touching a volume control.
Wow.
So that's why hearing aids are a totally different animal from glasses.
And hearing aids there are different kinds of hearing
Yes,
aids.
there
There's
are.
not one hearing aid is
Absolutely not. Hearing aids come in different styles. Some are called completely in canal, CIC. Some hearing aids are called receiver in canal. That means they're a behind the ear hearing aid, but you can't see it. It's like the size of a bean.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a thin wire going down into your ear canal with a tiny little speaker at the end of that. And those hearing aids, too, are just completely invisible that way. But different styles for different folks, different strokes for different folks, and also hearing aids come in different price ranges. You've got your golds, your silvers, and your bronzes. So to fit anyone's budget, the high-end hearing aids will have more bells and whistles. Hearing aids have directional microphones so that they'll pick up sound only in the direction in which you're facing. Hearing aids, that cuts out background noise, because background noise is one of the main complaints with hearing aids. They have digital noise suppression or digital noise reduction. They've got automatic, the whistle you get in hearing aids.
Mm-hmm.
That's called feedback,
Right.
as you in the radio business would know. Okay? And feedback happens if I'm talking in a microphone and I go too close to the speaker. So now the sound from the speaker is being picked up by the mic, and you got that vicious.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, and hearing aids have automatic digital feedback suppression. So the days of hearing aids whistling are done. You don't hear that anymore.
Amazing.
But people need to know that, and really the way you know it is just by checking it out. Try it.
And is it true that guys are probably more tentative than maybe?
Yes, males are the inferior gender, the inferior sex. We know that. We're like oak trees. When the wind blows, we finally snap. Whereas women are like these blades of grass that just kind of blow with the wind. They just kind of go with it, They're way more flexible. No wonder they live longer.
The operative word when your spouse says it's time to go for a hearing test. Yes, dear.
Why not? You've got nothing to lose anyway.
Everything to gain.
Yeah.
You've been listening to Boomer Life on CIL 650. George Gordon. We've been talking with Dr. Ted Venema with NextGen. NextGen, of course, now combined with Mainland Hearing, they've got almost 40 places right across the lower mainland and in the interior and on the island. NextGenHearing.com will give you a lot more information about what we've been talking about today. And you can listen to this show in its entirety on our podcast at CIL 650 and just hit the talk button. I'm George Gordon. This is CIL 650.